Hello, hello. Well, I am sorry I'm a few minutes late. I was trying to get started on my live video and the software that I use does not work anymore. They've updated it and it doesn't work without a paid subscription for it. So I haven't had a chance to check all that out yet. So anyway, I'm just gonna do this a little bit differently today. I have a wonderful slideshow for you, but I'm not able to show it on the screen because I don't know how to do that with this without using the software. So you'll just be seeing my face today, but I am going to look at my screen so make sure I'm telling everything in order and keeping up with my topics. So today's title is Avoiding the F Word, which is fights, and this is a way to transform potential conflicts into growth opportunities. And this is a special topic for me as a type 9 who likes to avoid conflict a lot. And that is not always healthy. Sometimes we're peacemakers, sometimes we're peacekeepers, which can mean putting our needs or others last in order to keep the peace. So today's topic is not about an unhealthy way to avoid conflict, but healthy ways to change conflict into something that is beneficial for both parties. So let's get started. First of all, when you think about the word fight, you might be in a fight mindset when you are having a discussion with your child. No, I'm just going forward. Okay. Sorry. All right. I'm on my thing and I just pushed the wrong button. All right. So, I'll put my phone down so I'm not holding it. All right. So sometimes we think of conflict or even like discussions that have emotion in them as fights. And the reason why we should kind of get out of that mindset is because thinking of something as a fight can cause us some different thoughts and physiological changes. And we start having a mindset of, if this is a fight, then one of us is right and one of us is wrong. It turns into more black and white thinking. I'm going to win, you're going to lose. And having that attitude, if your child loses, if your child is wrong, then that can damage the relationship if that's done in an unhealthy way. And so not coming at a conflict with that fight idea can really help it go in a different direction. So if you're thinking about something as a fight, you can escalate your emotions. You can obviously become aggressive. You can, we get that cortisol released in our body and it makes our executive functioning kind of shut down as we're in that fight or flight mode. And so we're not really thinking of what is the best response here, what's going to move us forward in a way that's healthy for our relationship. It's more, this is uncomfortable. I need to do something to fight, become more assertive and aggressive, or flee, just get out of here and avoid this and not even talk about it at all. And during this fight mentality, you're not sensitive to the other person's needs and emotions. You're not thinking with compassion towards them. You might dismiss them or invalidate their feelings. Let's see. It obviously has a negative impact on your relationship to fight, and it erodes trust, intimacy, and mutual respect. And yeah, so you have this physical tension, these heightened emotions, and that impairs your cognitive abilities. So instead, you can change that to mind shift. Your mind shift changes to, mindset changes to thinking of it as discussions, turning that fight into a discussion, not even calling it a conflict, but I know this is going to be hard, but I have a discussion I need to have with somebody. It's not going to turn to a fight. It's going to be a discussion where we can be open to like a respectful conversation with each other, understanding each other's perspectives. You might think of it as a dialogue. Again, the active listening, the mutual understanding between the parties, negotiations, finding a common ground, compromising through collaborative bargaining, problem-solving sessions. Again, you're identifying these causes and exploring different options. That might be a win-win situation, some creative solutions. You can view it as a learning experience, an opportunity for personal growth and gaining new insight, an opportunity for empathy, developing the ability to hear other people's feelings and understand their perspectives. This builds relationships. Conflict in relationship builds relationships if it's done well. It helps us to get to know someone better and to work through a problem and to come out the other end knowing that person better and having built something deeper in our relationship. It's a growth opportunity. It's a catalyst for positive change and self-improvement. All right, what are some ways to cause conflict? So I'm just going to go through these behaviors that we do, maybe unconsciously, that might instigate a conflict with our child. One is being overly critical. As our teenager grows up, and even our adult children, there's a place, there's not as much of a place for criticizing things like how they dress, or maybe even how they manage their time and things like that, if they're still, following the rules and remaining in the boundaries. That sometimes being critical, not sometimes, usually being critical can erode that trust and that respect for each other. So maybe having a thought before you say something to decide, does this need to be said? About, especially I'm thinking about like their appearance, or, why are you wearing that to church? That's not dressy. I'm just thinking of some examples in my life, but where you might be overly critical. Ignoring boundaries. We talked about earlier in videos about how important boundaries are. One, that you have boundaries that keep you safe and emotionally safe and physically safe, of course, and those that your children have. And as they get older, their boundaries increase. And depending on your parenting and your the trust that your child has garnered through your experiences with them, there's going to be different boundaries for different families. But ignoring boundaries can really erode that trust between a parent and a child. So just being conscious of that, and maybe thinking back to what are the boundaries with my child. What should be in place here as they're getting older. Okay, overreacting. This is easy to do when you come into a situation that it makes you unhappy. What happens? Our emotions and our adrenaline build up, and we might have a reaction that is too strong really for this situation. We might have a reaction based on our personal experiences and triggers, and that is not really as devastating as we may have expressed it to be. So, and a lot of times that is in the moment, responding in the moment to something that is upsetting or disappointing. We might overreact. We might overreact to kind of make a point. This is really, really hurtful. But again, if you're looking for the relationship and wanting to improve that relationship, taking a step back and thinking, okay, why am I so upset about this? What's a good way to communicate this with my child in a respectful way that can help us not get an argument about it, but to come to agreement or conclusion about that behavior. Another way to cause conflict would be dismissing your child's feelings and opinions. And this can be done, accidentally. You're trying to help. But really, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, attunement, last week, I believe, being attuned to your child's feelings before jumping ahead to that remedy or jumping ahead to that solving the problem. And like, I could even give an example from yesterday. My daughter, was talking about how she was upset. Her friend at school was teasing her about her shoes and about her Stanley Cup was not the style of Stanley Cup that was cool, and about her hair, which she is a redhead. And it hurt her feelings because they were joking with each other, but she could tell her friend was really serious and being mean. So I jumped ahead thinking that, oh, I need to reassure her how beautiful she is and how beautiful red hair is, and that girl's just jealous. And what I should have done, is really attuning to her feelings in that moment. Like, I'm sorry you had your feelings hurt, and attuning to that feeling instead of like trying to make her feeling go away. I've mentioned this before. This is my problem. I don't want her to have a sad feeling. So I'm like, your hair is beautiful. People dye their hair this color because they want this color. People pay for this color. And she said, Mom, I'm not insecure about my hair color. I just don't like that she was being mean to me. And I'm like, oh, well, good. But anyway, I missed an opportunity to, immediately be with her in that emotion, and comfort her in that emotion, because I was, I don't know if not necessarily dismissing, but not attuning to it and kind of moving ahead. Now, there's another way to do this, and that would be when your child is upset about something, like I hate school, or I hate my haircut, or whatever. And again, trying to talk them out of having this feeling, well, you really need to go to school is great because school can do this and this, or you get to see your friends at school, or some people don't have the opportunity to go to school. And again, you're dismissing their feelings and trying to kind of talk them out of them. So that can lead to conflict with your child. That can lead to them not wanting to share with you as much as they were if you're not going to give them that validation of their feelings that they're looking for there. And trying to solve the problem is my next one, which I kind of included there. You might ask your child, do you want me to help you to come up with ways to deal with this? And they can let you know if they do. But a lot of times they're not looking for a solution to the problem. They're looking for empathy and understanding, and someone just to be with them in that feeling. Okay. Let's see. Punitive discipline without communication. Okay. So your child does something they shouldn't do. Of course, they should have consequences for that. But if you're not communicating well and reasonably and in a calm manner and yelling, you walk in and they're eating all the cookies. I don't know. They're doing something they're not supposed to, and immediately you're like, all right, you get 0 cookies. Yeah, I have a problem with my kids stealing cookies. I'm sorry. But yeah, so whatever it is, something serious, in the moment, you're probably going to yell out a consequence. And one, you might not follow through with it because you said it in a moment and then you realize, well, that's not really a fair consequence. But also just in the way of expressing the consequence can cause conflict, can cause breaking the relationship. And so, as mentioned before, when you're in this discussion, you want to take time, instead of thinking, being in a fight mode, is to take the time to let your body relax and let your emotions calm down, let your adrenaline reduce in your body, so that you can still have a conversation, a really important conversation, but have it in a way that's healthy and open to what your child has to say, and still following through with what you need to do there in that moment for consequences. And another one is micromanage. That can cause conflict when you're micromanaging as your child gets older. Obviously, they want more independence and they need that independence. And for me, one of the things that I've started doing, that I've been able to do, thankfully, with my son, they started when he was in middle school with putting all their grades online, and I could see every day what grade he had and what he was missing. And, I would look, and I wasn't consistent enough to look every day or anything like that, but you definitely could be maybe micromanaging them and in looking at all their school stuff and telling them how to do it and when to do it, instead of letting them figure that out. And as a sixth grader, they're brand new at doing this, having 6 classes in a day and organizing. And so, of course, parents need to help with that, learn those skills. But now that my son is in high school, I have backed off of micromanaging or being really into his grades, and I'm allowed to feel free to do that as he has good grades, and so I see that he's responsible and he's doing that. So if I do, he had a test today, he's like, oh, I haven't checked yet, so I'll check because I'm excited to see what he did on his test. And I might notice, yeah, it looks like you have a missing thing here. He'll be like, oh yeah, I turned that in, I need to email her because she didn't grade it or whatever. So there's still, I'm still peeking at those grades, and again, like, it depends on your child's abilities and responsibility and all that, but giving them that freedom to and growth. I mean, it really is a skill they're going to need as they get to college. My daughter, the 6th grader, was saying, Emery, I'm not going to be able to check in college. I can't check your grades. I can't tell you when things are missing and when things are due. And she's like, you can't? I'm like, no, you don't do that. Parents don't. I don't know actually if parents have any access to grades of kids in college. I don't really know the answer to that question, but I know that should be their 100% their responsibility when they're in college to keep up with those things and have those skills. So let's move on. So those were some ways that you might encourage conflict in your home. So let's try to watch those behaviors. But in the moment when that conflict comes up or that hard discussion comes up in the conversation, what can you do in that moment to help make it a helpful conversation versus turning into something that explodes? So one is to take a moment. Several of our personality types in the Enneagram are withdrawing types. They aren't always able to say what's on their mind in a productive way without taking some time. I definitely find that true for myself. If I get an email that upsets me, I know I cannot, or text or something, if I respond right away, it's not going to be good. It's going to be aggressive. And even in my relationships, I'll respond a certain way. And then a few hours later, I'm like, you know what? Actually, this would have been such a better response. And it just took me that many hours. And it has taken me 24 hours for me to be like, okay, I'm at the point now where I could have said this. I can say this now. I couldn't have said it in the moment because my brain was not functioning in the way that was going to give me these productive ways to communicate, and the anger really. But once I've had many hours to process and to just calm down, I can think of so many better ways to have responded in the situation. You don't always have many hours, but taking a moment to breathe deeply, to get those emotions a little bit more even, to get that adrenaline to calm down will be helpful in the moment. So being able to ask for that, hey, can you give me like 10 minutes and then let's talk about this? I need to take a break. I mean, that is perfectly appropriate. In the moment, find something to agree on. Even if you're really disagreeing on the main thing, find something that you can say, okay, you're right about this, or I agree with you about this. And that just makes a person feel heard and that you're not just 100% against them. Don't interrupt. Sometimes that's hard. You hear them talking and you want to say, nope, that's not true, or, but you didn't do that, or whatever it is. But trying to have that self-control to let them finish the thought is going to, of course, prevent escalation in that discussion. Active listening, you've probably heard of a lot, but part of that is rephrasing what the person says. So it sounds like you're saying that you don't like when blank, or it sounds like you're saying it hurts your feelings when I do this. So being able to rephrase the point, sometimes it feels like I don't need to do that. Clearly, they said something I understand. We all know that. But the point of rephrasing is to validate that you have heard them and that you hear what they're trying to communicate. And you might be wrong. So they might say, no, that's not what I'm saying. And then that avoids getting to an argument about something that's not even the point. So remembering to rephrase and summarize kind of what they're saying, just to make sure you're on the same path, and to just give them a feeling of like, okay, this person is really hearing me and understanding what I'm saying. Don't engage in aggressive behaviors. So if the other person starts getting loud, trying not to follow them. If the other person starts using more aggressive language, like not following into the path that they are. Obviously, if they're doing that and you're doing that, it's just going to get more and more intense. So don't follow them in their use of aggressive language. Will help calm down the discussion. Apologize. I talked about this the other day, how important it is to be able to apologize to your children. And even in this discussion, you might have, I can apologize for this, even though it's not all my fault, or there's something else my child needs to do. I can say, I'm sorry for yelling at you. That wasn't the right response. And I know I want to say, but, okay. Maybe don't say but having a true apology for what behaviors you contributed to whatever's happening now is also helpful for the other person to see the care and the intent that you have. And then, of course, share your feelings. Being able to be open with your feelings and vulnerable will make the other person want to hopefully trust you with their open and vulnerable feelings. And that, of course, creates closeness that helps each other have more compassion and grace for each other. So I hope you will think about these things. And I might post this slideshow just so, I don't know, I'm such a visual learner. If I'm not reading something or taking notes, then it's hard for me to remember. But I need to put these on the fridge to remember to, because in the moment, your brain's not thinking like, what are all the things I should do in this moment to turn this into just a healthy discussion. So I will probably share that later. Now, different personality types of the Enneagram have different ways to respond in conflict that might be typical of them. And so I'm going to just read through a few of these. The type 1 is called the Reformer, and they are often rigid and inflexible during conflicts. They have these principles and standards that they're trying to uphold, and it's hard for them sometimes to be flexible in that. They might be critical and judgmental, and maybe have some frustration and anger and resentment that show up during those conflicts, especially if they're challenging their sense of right and wrong. The Helper is type 2. They like to maintain harmony and avoid conflict by thinking of others' needs over their own. They may suppress their own desires to keep the peace, or their own complaints to keep the peace, but then they end up being resentful. And they may struggle to set boundaries during conflict, fearing rejection and abandonment. Type 3 is the Achiever. They like quick remedies and focus on being efficient. They can sometimes be overly assertive during conflicts. They might be trying to win or prove their point rather than come to an agreement with the person, taking both sides into account. And they might have trouble being authentic and being vulnerable during a conflict because that might lead to a loss of status. So that might be a struggle for them. And, being able to be vulnerable in an argument is so important to maintaining the healthy relationship through the argument. So it's something a 3 could work on. 4s, they're the individualist. They internalize conflicts. They have spent a lot of times time processing their feelings. They may have intense emotions. So they have a hard time separating a conflict from like who they are. They may withdraw or become passive aggressive during conflicts, struggling to express their needs and assert themselves. And they may feel abandoned during conflict or rejected. And so those are such hard, complicated feelings. And if you're in a conflict with the type 4, understanding that they may be feeling that way, which can cause deeper hurt, you may figure out how you need to support them so they don't feel abandoned at that time. Type 5s are the investigator. They respond to conflicts by retreating into their inner world, seeking space and solitude to analyze their situation. So you might be frustrated that your type 5 family member goes to their room and is in there for a couple hours after conflict, but that's part of their personality, that they're analyzing what happened. They also can become emotionally detached. They might use logic over emotions and miss that emotional, important emotional feelings of the person they're in a conversation with. And they have a hard time expressing their emotions and needs during a conflict, fearing vulnerability or like having someone intrude on their inner self. And then the loyalist is type 6. They're loyal, it's a name, and they seek security and support and guidance from trusted allies. They can be anxious during conflict. They can be reactive. They might be thinking of the worst case scenarios. And they also might avoid confrontation. They often have indecision and self-doubt, and again, may seek that external validation or guidance. Type 7 is the enthusiast. They may respond to a conflict by using humor or optimism to try to avoid it. They might try to minimize it, to get the tension, to remove tension, and be more positive. And they are possibly trying to avoid those uncomfortable feelings that come with the conflict. They struggle with facing difficult emotions and making tough decisions during conflict because they struggle with that, any discomfort, emotional discomfort, or even if it is a restriction, part of that discussion is restricting to them, that is uncomfortable for them. They're going to fight against that. And then type 8 is the challenger. So they confront conflict head on. They assert their power and their dominance. They feel comfortable in conflict. They may, if you're a type 8, you know that you may initiate conflict where other people might not, because you're very comfortable with that. Eights like to protect themselves or others and kind of have more control of the conversation. They can be aggressive or confrontational, asserting their boundaries and demanding respect. And they do struggle with vulnerability and trust during conflicts, fearing betrayal or showing their weaknesses. And then a type 9 seeks to maintain peace and harmony during conflicts, avoiding confrontation and accommodating the needs of others. May suppress their own desires or opinions to keep the peace, leading to feelings of resentment and passive aggressiveness. And so you might see that conflict coming up in the passive aggressiveness of a 9. And sometimes they have a hard time asserting themselves or setting boundaries and just feeling more conflict and rejection. And again, the type 4s and the type 5s and the 9s are withdrawing types. So you might find them withdrawing emotionally or physically during a conflict. And as some of the other numbers who move towards people, sometimes that's hard because you feel like you're being rejected by them when really this is just part of the process of dealing with those emotions. And hopefully a healthy 4, 5, or 9 will come back to the conversation and be sure to not leave anybody hanging in that conflict, but continue to address it in a healthy manner. And then how do we de-escalate conflicts with a particular Enneagram type. So quickly, I'll go through these. The type 1, the reformer, if you're in a conflict with them, use a calm and rational tone. Acknowledge their desire to be ethical, to have principles, to be right. Be sure to suggest a compromise that upholds their values as well. Type 2, the helper. You want to express your appreciation that you have for them because they're very caring and they're go out of their way to be there for others. Acknowledging that to them, it will go a long way. Suggest taking a break and recharge before addressing the issue in a spirit of mutual understanding. Type 3, the achiever. Avoid direct criticism with them. Frame the situation as an opportunity for growth and focus on practical solutions that align with their goals. So as we know, the type 3s are looking to grow and be better. And if you can frame your conflict in that way, that will be more likely for the 3 to engage in a healthy way. Type 4, validate their unique perspective and emotions. Encourage open communication to find common ground while respecting individual differences. Type 5, the investigator. If you have the opportunity to provide analytical data, some logical analysis, those things go a long way with the type 5s. They need time to process information before coming to a conclusion, so you'll want to give them time to do that. Let's see, the loyalist. Often, they're looking for reassurance and security, so you can offer that to them during the discussion. Emphasize the importance of working together, because that's one of their strengths, and just be really supportive of them during the discussion. All right, type 7, the enthusiast. Inject positivity and explore creative solutions. Remind them of the potential for growth and new experiences through conflict resolution. So the 7s are looking to grow and have a new experience. So if you can somehow frame your conflict in that manner, then that's going to help de-escalate. And then the type 8 is the challenger. So respect their desire for control and use direct communication and find a solution that preserves their sense of strength and autonomy. Type 8s want you to come back with assertiveness with them. You don't have to back down necessarily, but trying to not undermine their strength that they're holding on to there would also be helpful, not to accelerate any type of conflict. And then the type 9, encourage them to voice their needs, asking them, what do you want or what do you think about this, in a way that is understanding, can help you get a lot more information out of them that you're intentionally asking for their thoughts and opinions. Suggest a cooperative approach that balances perspectives and avoids escalating any of the tension. All right, well, thank you very much for listening and being here. If you made it to the end of the video, I hope that some of this is helpful. I know we're all trying to do our best as moms. You join this group because you really care about being a great mom, and you have so many great things that you probably don't even realize happening for you as a mom. But I do these videos for myself as much as you guys, just remind myself of what healthy parenting looks like. And even though all of our families look very different, it's going to look very different. But if you would like more specific strategies that meet the needs of your family, I'd be happy to hop on a call with you and give you some feedback. So feel free to reach out. You can message me if you'd like to schedule a complimentary call to gain some clarity on your situation. So I will see you next time.